Welcome to The Wrecking Trade, this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m., the radio show that provides a platform for a deeper understanding of issues affecting men in the Cayman Islands. Join us as we explore the low enrollment of men and boys in college classrooms, the absence of men in the church, and the absence of fathers in the home. Join the conversation as we help men find their place in the modern world. Through engaging interviews with experts and members of the community, we provide a clear picture of what healthy masculinity looks like as an example for boys and girls. Our mission is to provide a voice for men, to help them navigate the challenges that they face and provide hope for a brighter future. So tune in this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. and join the conversation on The Wrecking Trade. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of men and boys in the Cayman Islands. Brought to you by Oscore Fitness, strong inside, powerful outside, and the Bellagio Salon and Spa, where beauty is reimagined.
I came in like a wrecking ball. I'm not afraid.
Yeah. It's been a busy morning here at Radio Cayman, right, Sue? Yes, it's always busy. Now, the business buzz will take you up to 9 o'clock. Come 9 o'clock, we'll have the headlines, and Susan's got some sweet music lined up for you on the breakfast session. But in the meantime, I want to say good morning and welcome to our guest in the studio. Our guest is Mr. Robert Lynch. Robert is a media marketing professional and host of the Wrecking Trade, should I say new?
Yes.
A new radio show that provides a platform for a deeper understanding of the issues which are important to men. What it takes to make a relationship work. What does healthy masculinity looks like for boys and girls? If you want to find out more about masculinity, relationships, and masculine energy, well, listen up. Mr. Lynch is in the studio and he is in control. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Anita. Thank you for having me. And good morning, Susan. How are you doing
Susan
today?
Is the woman. She's
the
holding
woman.
it down.
Holding it down. She
The
does such an awesome
cameras,
job.
the phone, the door, the board, keeping me in check. So, Robert, for the listeners, I know you. I know you from ICCI. I know you from just being Robert, being in the studio here with us. Now, our listeners, and our viewers, of course, they want to learn more about Robert. So, tell us a bit about you.
All right. Interesting conversation. Figuring out where to start when I share with persons who I am, and what I've come to is I'm actually dyslexic. All right.
You are.
I am.
Like
And
Richard Branson.
And for much of my life, I actually couldn't read. And so what I realized as I went through that process, I actually went through college without having read a book at all. Graduate from college without having a textbook or owning or writing in a notebook. And what I realized when I was in primary school was, at the time I was growing up, there's certain things that you didn't want to identify as, and being dyslexic or having some kind of mental illness was part of that challenge, because you're going to be branded as many of those words. One of them begins with an R or matter, those things. So you didn't want to be identified as that. So I wouldn't tell people that I was having these challenges. I would be trying to read material and the words would just be all over the place, or I'd get words mixed up and there's this confusion. What I realized, though, was that I had a superpower. And I found this out quite oddly. After an exam, I was outside with a bunch of other students, and they're talking and saying, "Hey, this was on the exam. This was on the exam. We've never seen this. We've never seen this." And in my head, I was going, "But we did." And I could remember the day that we went through that material, and I could remember what was going on. And so I realized that if I was paying attention, if I listened, I could actually take in a lot more around me than many other people could. And I actually found that trying to write in a notebook and trying to take notes or those things, they were a distraction to me. So from then on, I stopped taking notes in class. I stopped doing the things. I stopped trying to struggle through penmanship and just sat in class and listened, or sat around people who had great things to say, and so I could hear from them. And so one of the things I also took away from that is it's very important who you surround yourself with. Your success could be greatly affected by the kind of people you surround yourself with. Since then, I've taken it on myself to try to teach myself a new skill or two new skills every single year. Last year, I wanted to teach myself, I tried to understand the cryptocurrency world. And so I actually taught myself coding and wrote and mounted my own cryptocurrency. It's called BOTC, right? And then I also wanted to understand self-publishing, and so I designed my first book. It's called My Prayer and Gratitude Journal. I went through the graphic design and setup and everything, and then mounted it on Amazon KDP, so I'm self-published. And I said, wow, this is really great. I can do this. And so I started another book. I teach communications at the International College, so I started my other book, which is called Communications, or Straight Talk for Communications. And I published that, and I guess I got the publishing bug. And I enjoyed it so much. I actually started my own blog, which can be found at robertnflynch.com, where I shared tips and tricks or tools for persons to learn every single day. And as I was going through that process, I don't know if we're going into that yet, but as I was going through that process,
Keep talking.
I found something really, really interesting. When I was working on the communications book, I realized that a lot of the tools and the skills that I was looking at that were necessary for success were aligning themselves along the male-female dynamic. And it was helping men to communicate with women. And I was trying to understand what is going on in the world today. Is it that men don't understand women? Is it what's happening? And I found something interesting. As I was doing the research, it challenged many of the thoughts that I had believed for many years about the male-female dynamic and what was happening in our world today. And that has led to this show that we're going to be talking about today, The Wrecking Trade.
The Wrecking Trade. What a name. How did you come up with that name for your show, Robert?
Interesting, right? So as I was going through, one of the words phrases that kept popping up for men was toxic masculinity. And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. And I was trying to understand what that meant. And as I was looking at it, I noticed that many of the things that we now call toxic or brand as toxic masculinity, these are things that used to just be masculine back in the day. And so how did they transition from being male and masculine to now being toxic? And the wrecking trade, when I was doing some research, the wrecking trade is actually a time in Cayman history where bravery was celebrated. I mean, ships would try to come in past the trench and whatnot, run aground, and so people would be in danger, goods would be in danger, and the men would go out, swim out, and risk their own lives to save persons and save goods. And so that was a time when these masculine traits were celebrated. And so that's why I use that to kind of connect.
I like that. I like that. So you like that? I love it. Yeah.
So the show is an opportunity for us to get back to celebrating being masculine, celebrating being male. We understand that we live in a different world, but we can live in a diverse world where masculinity can be celebrated.
And that's a lot about Robert.
And that's a lot about Robert.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Now, how much research, how much work goes into preparing for a show such as The Wrecking Trade?
Great question. And this is why. To really have conversations, for me, we have to take the conversation out of just being about feelings, because feelings are this way today and they're a different way tomorrow. And they're different from person to person.
Especially if you're Pisces.
Especially if you... right? And so to get a base for the conversation, I really wanted to ground it in statistics and what was going on the ground. What were the generalities that could be seen? Because, I mean, you will have fringes and outliers and those kinds of things. But for the majority to have success, what needed to happen? And those numbers had to make sense. And so there's a lot of research that goes in. And then anything that I talk about, I do mount those supporting research elements on my website, on the Wrecking. So that's robertnflynch.com/The Wrecking Trade. So persons can do research and connect so they can understand where I'm coming from. Even if you don't agree with me, even if you don't agree with the things that we talk about, at least they're supporting evidence that says, hey, this is what it is. These are the numbers. Do with it what you will.
All right. Now, Robert, what topics have you covered so far in your show? And can I go back and view those shows, those past shows? Are they archived?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we've only been going for about 3 weeks now, or 4 weeks now. So I have 3 shows. And what I do is we do the show live on Bobo FM. And persons can listen in on the local radio. Then I take those shows and then I mount them on our YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel has had it was just mind-blowing for me how quickly it blew up. So I started the channel started putting content on the channel about 3 weeks ago. Started with about 10 subscribers. Right now we're at 1,552 subscribers when I checked
You
this
go,
morning.
Robert.
With about 16,000 and change views in the time
Nice.
with the content.
Very good.
I mean, the distribution on the channel is about 71% male to 29% female. So there's a hunger for a space for men to be able to have conversations like these to help themselves to understand what is happening and what does that mean for me going forward.
What's the percentage for women again? 29?
29%.
29 that viewed. Okay. They're peeping to see what the men are looking at.
But interesting, because we do have conversations with women. The conversation is because the core belief is that we must grow together as a society. We can't have one dominating, and it just doesn't work. If we're not moving forward together, then we're not moving forward at all, and we might end up going the way of Japan, as Japan is scheduled to be, a decreasing population and promising to be down to, or looking to be down to, under 80 million, coming from its high of 128 million. So if we're not careful, we go, oh, we're battle of the genders or battle of the sexes. Persons are going to stop getting into relationships, stop having kids. These are the things that are going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Now, should men in any society reconsider how they treat one another, how they treat women, and how they treat themselves?
I think that's interesting.
You stepped back for this question, did you?
Say again?
I saw you step back for this question.
Yes. And to understand if we should reevaluate how we teach each other, there's a premise that's built into that says something is going on and says that there's someone at fault. Right? That's what I'm taking from it. And so reevaluating how we treat each other suggests that we should possibly do something different, and so the evaluation is going to be, what does that different need to be? And so if I go back to the beginning and go, how is it that we treat each other? Is it that we're intentionally harming each other? Is it that we're damaging each other? Is it that we're fearful of each other? Is it that we're misunderstanding each other? And so for me, I'd reposition the question to, do we, as both genders, need to have a look at ourselves and see what is it that we want, A, where do you want to get to, B, and how do I get there? And so once I can start with these things, then you can choose, hey, we can choose the path that we want. I'll give you a quick example.
But that's like the great divide.
Exactly. So I'll give you a quick analogy or a story. Many years ago, I had this friend. We were in college. She was in college, and she was in the same program with me at the time, which was information science, and she was working on her degree. She absolutely hated it. She had appreciation for computers, but she hated the degree. What she really wanted to do was to be at home, have a baby, live with her husband, and that's the life that she wanted. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, right? But for some reason, she felt pressured, as in there's a societal pressure that says, hey, I've got to go work, I've got to go be the boss, I've got to go do these things. And so she was living in a kind of dissonance. And that dissonance is, what I really want, I don't feel like I can have it because there's pressure to do that. So I say, when we can align ourselves with what we want, where we want to get to, and how we're going to get there, then we can live in our truth. And then we can find people to surround ourselves with that align with that truth. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So in our relationship dynamics, sometimes if we're not looking at those things, we may end up getting married to people who harm us because they're of a different mindset, right? Someone who is more traditional getting married to someone who's more modern is going to be a recipe for conflict. It's not because these people are horrible people.
Yeah,
it's not.
I have to agree with you there, Robert.
It's not because this is just harmful and dangerous. It's because, hey, you try to put two things together that don't fit, it's just not going to work. Welcome to The Wrecking Trade, this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m., the radio show that provides a platform for a deeper understanding of issues affecting men in the Cayman Islands. Join us as we explore the low enrollment of men and boys in college classrooms, the absence of men in the church, and the absence of fathers in the home. Join the conversation as we help men find their place in the modern world. Through engaging interviews with experts and members of the community, we provide a clear picture of what healthy masculinity looks like as an example for boys and girls. Our mission is to provide a voice for men
to help them navigate the challenges that they face and provide hope for a brighter future. So tune in this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. and join the conversation on The Wrecking Trade. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of men and boys in the Cayman Islands. Brought to you by Oscore Fitness, strong inside, powerful outside, and the Bellagio Salon and Spa, where beauty is reimagined.
I came in like a wrecking ball.
Yeah.
Business Buzz in the studio. We have Mr. Robert Lynch. Robert, he has his brand new radio show in Bobo,
Yes.
and it's called The Wrecking Trade.
Also available on YouTube.
Okay, and we just love talking about other stations, and we just love to do that.
And that's what I
Robert.
love about Radio Cayman.
Yeah,
We're impartial.
That's right. Now, Robert, we know that men are expected to be tough.
Yes.
You agree?
Yes.
Okay. Men are told to man up, grin and bear it.
Yes.
Don't cry. I'm going to slap you, silly. Don't show any emotion. What are your thoughts on all that?
I think it's an interesting conversation to have because one of the things I've come to realize that anything worth doing requires strain or stress. If I want to have a decent physique, that means I have to go to the gym. And what do they say? No pain, no gain. Right? If I want to develop a business, I have to go through sleepless nights. There are a lot of things that you have to invest in. You know your job. To be good at your job, you can't just get up and, just do it. One of the things that helps me to keep going is this thing I learned in primary school, and this, I'm trying to remember it now. The heights that great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards through the night. So work, challenge, helps to form us into diamonds. Pressure makes diamonds, right? And so, especially as men, one of the things I do believe is that we need challenge in order to refine our muscles, to give us strength, to strengthen us. We're certainly not talking about harming each other, but we are talking about putting each other in situations, or putting our children in situations that helps to prepare them for the time when we're not going to be around. Wrapping them in bubble wrap will not keep them safe, because I won't be there with them. I have a son, he's 3 years old. I have a daughter, she's going to be 2 in a couple of months. And I am very aware that I can't be with them for the rest of their lives. I won't be with them in every single situation. So rather than trying to protect them or wrap them, what I have to do is to teach them how to be successful and to keep themselves safe when I'm not around.
Teaching your children.
So even to tapping into emotions, one of the things that men have had to do since the beginning of time is to understand that we're emotional. Sometimes we have this conversation that says men are logical and women are emotional. No, we're human beings. We're all emotional. Men have had to learn, though, how to manage those emotions a lot more. Going all the way back in time. Hey, am I scared? Yes, I am. We need to go out there and hunt buffalo because the family, the village, we need food. The wives, the ladies are pregnant, and we need to make sure that they have food to eat so that we can continue our race, right? Continue or keep our village alive. So we had to take that fear, put it aside, and go, hey, let's get together and hunt this food so that we can. And guess what? Some of us died doing that. But we understood that that's what was necessary. In World War II, we had 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds. These men had to get up, get into a boat. Some of them the documentary is available on Netflix. When you're watching them, they're scared. But they know that to keep our world safe from this tyrant, we have to stand up and do something.
But women could have killed buffaloes too, right? We just weren't given the chance.
We just weren't given the chance? Why do you say that?
Because men, we women say, well, men must go out and do this. But the women could have done it too, I'm sure.
That's an interesting
I'm sure
thing.
they were never given the opportunity.
That's an interesting thing to say, because one of the things that appears is that, look at the two of us right here. There's a natural physical difference between the two of us. So
I can make babies and you can't.
Exactly. You can do that, and I do not have that
But
skill.
I don't mean that you can kill a buffalo and I can't.
Why not? If my physicality is stronger than yours, then, and here's the thing, certainly you can figure out a way to kill buffalo, but is it efficient? Is it efficient for you to go out and hunt buffalo? Or let me say it another way. Two of us, you and your husband, you're at home Or, let's just use the studio. You're here, Susanna's here. Someone's breaking into the studio to try to kill us all. And I'm hiding in the back while both of you are trying to defend us. How does that make you feel and think? Or let me make it even personal. You are laying in bed with your husband, and there's a knock on the door, and I mean, someone's trying to break in, and he says to you, honey, I'm scared.
Well, I'll protect him.
We say these things, but we realize
But
deep
for
down
right now,
we
you can just
recognize
kill the spider.
we recognize deep down that guess what? There are expectations of men. We do have these expectations because guess what?
Yeah.
If he says that to you, even in this feminist era, in this modern era, you're still going to look at him differently. You're going to go, I don't feel safe around you, because a woman still needs to be safe, feel safe around the men that she's with.
No, that's not fair these days.
It's not fair?
No,
Why do you
because
think it's
I
not
think
fair?
women, well, some women at least, would say, look, I can protect you as well, especially if I've done some taekwondo and stuff. I can protect you, without even thinking, well, you're a wuss or anything like that.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Because the statistics are not saying that. The research I'm
wrong.
reading,
They're wrong.
the research that I'm looking
gotta
at,
correct
the research that I'm looking at says that, as a society, we're looking at equality. We're looking at getting into these things, and what it's actually leading to is two interesting things. Those two interesting things are women are less happy than they've been historically, even though they have more freedoms.
Well, women are always we're always miserable. But on that note,
Even
Robert,
though they've had more freedoms than they've had historically. Yes.
Okay. But men have feelings too,
Yes.
right? We see that. We know that.
Yes.
So how are they able to channel those feelings, let's say through mindfulness, self-respect, and outward respect, and learning to live a better life and survive whatever they are going through? I mean, we know as women, men have feelings, but we like to say, no, he's good. We do that.
Yes.
And it's not fair.
It's not fair.
But how do you feel about all that?
And again, going along the same conversation, how do we create spaces that allows everyone to feel heard and listened to, and to actually be themselves, to have congruence in their life? And that thought is understanding that men have feelings, understand that men have responsibilities. We're able to compartmentalize, to put those feelings in a box and go, hey, I'll deal with that a little bit. Right now we need to go hunt buffalo, we need to go provide for the family, we need to do what it is that we need to do. These things are still in men. One of the things that's happened over the last 60 years is that the representation of the strong woman has shifted in the media over the last 50 years. So going from the mother who's at home taking care of the kids to anything that she wants to be. You're seeing different shapes and sizes of women on the cover of magazines now and in media. But for some reason, the image of man has stayed the same. The ideal man is still a strong, confident man who is in charge, in control, and can manage these things. And so we still expect those things of men. Part of the challenge, though, is that as women become more advanced in the workforce, become more educated, become higher earners, then I was reading a report just as I was preparing for this presentation that told me, hey, guess what? Guess what's happening as we develop more of those aggressive skills, as we develop more of those success-driven skills, right? And the report said, I'll just give you a quick read. We've known for a while that testosterone is associated with aggressive behavior. We know that in men, yes? But a fascinating new experience reveals that these hormones are a two-way street. Simply acting aggressive can also raise testosterone levels in both men and women, right? So as we are homogenizing the races, we're bringing both men and women in the same space. That means what we're doing is men are becoming more feminine because we've told them that being the things that are being masculine, sharing aggression, these kinds of things, they're wrong, and so we're lowering their testosterone. And women, hey, we need to be bosses, we need to be more aggressive, we need to be in the field, and so their testosterone is rising. Right?
Robert, we need a lot of time to discuss all of this. But toxic masculinity.
Don't
what is
believe
that?
in it
What is-
at
what is it?
all.
Tell
Don't
me what it's
subscribe to
about.
that concept
Tell-
at all.
And
And I'll
for
tell
that
you why.
person who's listening and don't know what
Yes.
toxic, masculinity is about?
So let me tell you where I come down with this, right? There are many roles that we've seen traditionally as masculine that for some reason now we've painted them as toxic, and I'll tell you why I don't subscribe to this thought. You've never heard anyone say toxic fire. We understand that fire can hurt you. We understand that fire can damage you. We understand that these things can happen. But rather than painting fire as toxic, what we've learned to do is to control it, to manage it, to use it, to make wonderful meals when you go to some of these restaurants. Right? So the same way, there are things that are necessary for us as men. They're biological. They're a part of us. Testosterone is something that's inside of us. And if that leads to aggression, the goal is not to go, hey, kill it, subdue it, throw it away. The goal is to go, how do I manage these things to make sure I'm using them in the appropriate area? So when I'm getting at that business, when I'm out on the football field, when I'm doing these things, I can play these things out so that it can lead me to success. But when I get home, I can be tender with my wife. I can make sure that I'm being loving with my children. I can make sure that I'm not just being the provider and the protector, but also the priest that shows them what they need to be. And so the idea for men is not to stop being men. The idea for men is to learn how to be more complete as men, understanding all facets of themselves, appreciating those things, and then channeling them appropriately.
Boy, I love that. You want to repeat that? No, I'm just kidding. We have to take a quick break. Thanks to our sponsor this morning, Cayman Insurance Center. And our guest in the studio is Mr. Robert Lynch, and he's got, in case you missed it, he's got a brand new radio show. Everybody's got a brand new radio show these days. Well, congratulations, Robert. I haven't got a chance to listen, but I will, especially since I had you in the buzz. Robert's got a brand new show on Bobo FM. Is that right?
That's
Bobo
right.
FM.
That's right. And
Bobo.
on YouTube.
On YouTube, right? It's called The Wrecking Trade.
Welcome to The Wrecking Trade, this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m., the radio show that provides a platform for a deeper understanding of issues affecting men in the Cayman Islands. Join us as we explore the low enrollment of men and boys in college classrooms, the absence of men in the church, and the absence of fathers in the home. Join the conversation as we help men find their place in the modern world. Through engaging interviews with experts and members of the community, we provide a clear picture of what healthy masculinity looks like as an example for boys and girls. Our mission is to provide a voice for men, to help them navigate the challenges that they face and provide hope for a brighter future. So tune in this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. and join the conversation on The Wrecking Trade. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of men and boys in the Cayman Islands. Brought to you by Oscore Fitness, strong inside, powerful outside, and the Bellagio Salon and Spa, where beauty is reimagined.
I came in like a wrecking ball.
Look at your show. Just a quick thing on that.
So, interesting thought, and I guess I try to use the recipe for success for many other persons who are putting out in this space, and so I try to interview interesting people, right? And I try to interview interesting people that will bring controversy, yes, some of that to the show, but also interesting viewpoints, the things that you won't hear on every other podcast, on every day. I try to invite beautiful women and strong men, right? So that we can create a model for young boys and girls to see and to look at and to go, oh, okay, I can aspire to this. And one of our core messages is, even to young men, don't get distracted by everything else that is going on. Same thing to young women. Don't get distracted by what you see in front of you. Going back to the core message of, think about what you want. Think about where you want to get to and to focus on getting there. And so we market the show by trying to add value to persons' lives. And so right away, getting both on the local radio station and putting it out on YouTube, and then sharing it in different groups, both on WhatsApp, both on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever persons may find this content. And we found it to be very successful. As I mentioned earlier, in the last 3 weeks, we've gone from 10 subscribers to 1,500 subscribers and over 16,000 views already. So.
And you're marketing right here on Radio Cayman.
And we're marketing right here on Radio Cayman. So I love the synergies that we're able to create.
Oh, gosh. How can we prevent, going back to that toxic masculinity, Robert, how can we prevent that? How can that be prevented?
So as I mentioned before, I don't subscribe to that thought about what
Right.
toxic masculinity is.
No,
as
I
it's
like
been
how
said
you
now.
answer. That's why I'm asking you a second time.
Appreciate that. I appreciate that. And so the idea is, again, going back to the core. Who am I? What do I want to be? And how do I get there? And how do I surround myself with people who are on the same path with me? And so to create those kinds of spaces where we can be fully ourselves. So whether it is mentorship, getting into men's groups. So one of the things I do try to do once a month, my friend and I, we get together and we bring men together. And we sit down, we have conversations. We talk about where we want to go, where we're going, and then we're able to share a network and help to support each other.
Is it a network that you're able to share with a number or something that people can reach out to you?
Sure, 324-9000, 324-9000.
Not so fast, Robert.
324-9000. Again, 324-9000, and we can have a conversation to see how we can get boys and men on the path to success and greatness. And one of the core things that we're talking about is helping young men to navigate away from the current hookup culture and the current quick money, fast ideas to connecting with strong men, connecting around the success that they want to see so that they can position themselves for that kind of success in their own lives in the future.
I'm surprised we don't have a caller yet. Some of the guys who are listening and say, Robert, you are the man. Hashtag Me Too movement. How has that affected men and women in the workplace? Your take on that?
This one is very interesting and also very controversial. Because the challenge is you're dealing with real feelings, you're dealing with real outcomes, you're dealing with real harm, right? So if a woman does find herself in a situation where she has been hurt, where she has been violated, that of course is never acceptable under any kind of conditions. We never support that, right? So but one of the things that we also have to be mindful of is how our interactions affect each other. And so in an effort to compensate or manage or to prevent things, we may find ourselves in a situation where we will put up guardrails or put up, what do you call these things, bars. And those bars are going to limit the amount of interaction that we can. So let's look at it this way. In the workplace, one of the things that is coming out in the data is that the Me Too movement has impacted how men and women interact.
Right.
That's just a fact, right? And the facts of those, and we can say whatever we do want to say about those statistics. What we will have happen is men would be less likely to approach women in those situations, and you may even find situations where men are less likely to hire women. Those are coming out because, hey, this is going to put me at risk. I've heard even in the medical field, you now have to put a male doctor and a female nurse to make sure that you're managing for these kinds of situations. And this, of course, becomes even more expensive, becomes more costly. And so persons are evaluating these things and go, okay, fine. What's the best method? Okay, maybe women doctors only treat women, women doctors and nurses only treat women, and men only treat men. And so there's a whole redesign of society that may be necessary in order for this to make sense. But as it stands right now, we've reached an untenable situation where it's not necessarily helping us as a society. We do want to make sure that women feel protected, feel safe, but the current model is not the one.
I like your take on that. According to a GLA conservation group study, some 96% of sexual crimes against men go unreported, and they don't report it until it becomes a crisis. What are some reasons male domestic abuse victims do not report the abuse?
That's a really, I love the question. I love the research that you put into, having this
Thanks,
conversation.
Susan.
I love the work that you do, Susan. I appreciate
The
you.
GLA conservation group study.
So here's the situation. I'm actually working on my third book, which is going to be a manual for men to help them to go, how do I become a high-value man, to make sure that you're being attractive to the opposite gender and to make sure that you can find success in the modern world. And part of that, as doing the research for that, is I've always thought, as you think about domestic violence, you think automatically, hey, that's a man perpetrating some kind of crime against a woman, right? And the thought was, that's an automatic thought. Where did that thought come from? Because when I did the research, the numbers didn't actually support that. The numbers for the reported cases are actually somewhere around the lines of 33% for women, but 25% for males. So the numbers are pretty close as it comes to gender. And then you're adding to that 95% of the cases are not reported. So what that would translate mathematically is that men are finding themselves in gender violence situations in higher numbers than women, but they're going unreported. And so why is it then that we live in a world where there's a whole host of systems in place to protect women, but then none of those things are in place for men? None of those safe spaces where men can go, none of those safe places are there, or rarely, if any, none of those safe places are there for men if they find themselves in this situation. So to answer your question, why is it that men are not reported? Why is it that these cases are not reported for men? Because we don't respect and appreciate these situations are happening as a human condition. We don't appreciate that violence is a human attack. It's another human attacking another human. And humans who are unable to find themselves in healthy spaces, find themselves to learn how to manage their emotions, are going to attack and harm other human beings. And so the goal is to help humans to manage themselves, conduct themselves in a way where they're not led untethered by their emotions to just react and cause harm. And so to help men, that means we have to have a conversation with both men and women. When a man walks in and goes, hey, my wife is beating me, he gets laughed at. Right? Or, or even in the workplace, going back to the Me Too movement, if a man says, hey, my boss is a woman, she is harassing me, again, he gets laughed at. My youth, right? And this happens.
You don't know what to do about that.
And this happens both men and women.
Yeah.
He's laughed at by both men and women. And so how do we create safe spaces for both men and women in the workplace, in our world, so that whatever is happening that is causing harm to you, whether you're a man or a woman, you feel comfortable to be able to share that. And so you can get the help that you need.
I'll tell you what, if we have a lot more passionate men like you on this subject, Robert, we'll be way ahead of the game. Way ahead. And on that note, what would you say are the most pressing societal issues facing men here, generally, and around the world?
Here.
Well, let's deal with Cayman.
Yes.
The Cayman Islands.
Because
you've done the research.
Yes. Cayman is an interesting place because one of the things around the world, poverty exists, and as persons are in those different situations, they have different problems. But as societies become more affluent, they have what we call rich people problems. Right? And in the Cayman Islands, women are very educated, women are earning, very empowered, women are earning a lot. And so what you do have is that kind of clash in the space I told you earlier about as women take on more of those traditionally masculine roles, then that increases their testosterone levels. And what happens is, in many of our relationships, we have competition instead of complementing. And so one of the greatest issues affecting us in our current age is to try to understand how do we create those safe spaces. It's become quite normal for women to go, I don't need no man, right? I can take care of myself. I don't need no man.
I can buy myself flowers.
I can do those things. And these things are just normal and okay. But I'll tell you this, I need women, right? I need you, Anita. I need you, Susan, because in a world where we're all isolated and we're all trying to be islands, we're sending the wrong message to our children. The factors that have been tested and proven is that the more we create those kinds of environment, they negatively impact our children and their capacity to make those human connections later on, to accomplish peer bonding, right? It also impacts them along financial. One of the statistics that I cover is before the 1960s, single mother households were about 22%, right? Right now, we've gone above 68%. So 68% of our children are growing up in households that are led by single mothers. What is that what is that translating to? It's translating to lesser peer bonding. So attachment challenges. It's translating to financial challenges. Children who grow up in these kinds of environment are projected to have less education and less financial success in their lives, as well as so we've talked about education, human connection, and finances. And these are three things that, and so the translation to that is we're going to have less stronger relationships, which then filters into the next generation of, hey, children are going to be challenged, more divorces, our whole societal fabric breaks down. Quick example, if we understand that we're building blocks, those are our family units, and those blocks are weaker now. If we're using those blocks to build houses, that house will crumble.
You're damn right about that.
So our society is crumbling because the families...
Robert, this makes for hot topic on Wrecking Trade, I'm sure.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. We do get heated, but the idea is to make sure that we're having the conversations in a way that allows persons to be able to appreciate and understand and to learn from it. You get information, do with it what you will. My goal is to help persons to see that and to make the best decision for themselves and for the children.
And this all leads up to, let's talk about men's mental health. Do we have time for that? No, it's only we got a minute, Susan. So this is going to be a topic for another day.
Maybe we have to come back and just keep the conversation going. Because we need more spaces for men to be able to express themselves in this way, to be able to stand up as men and go, hey, I'm a man. And it's okay. And it's okay for women to be bosses and to be all that they can be. We're understanding, though, that actions have consequences. And so as women increase in their financial situations, guess what's happening? Then that means they're going to outpace men, and men are going to become less attractive to them. So my message to men is we need to improve ourselves. We need to step up our game, and so that we can be the men that we were designed to be.
That's right. Amen to that, Robert. You've got 5 seconds to promote your show.
All right. So the Wrecking Trade is on Bobo on Wednesdays at 10:30. We run from 10:30 to 12 o'clock. You can also catch the rebroadcast on YouTube. Next Wednesday, we start broadcasting live. So there'll be video in the studio. And so you're able to see the conversation and interact with us live in chat. Just come on out and support. We want to hear your voice. And we want to hear the voices of both men and women, because this conversation doesn't work if it's only being had on one side.
Thank you, Robert. Robert Lynch, Wreck and Trade. Thanks to our sponsor this morning, Cayman Insurance Center. Thanks to our guests, of course, in the studio from Cayman Drama Society. And Robert, Susan, thank you so much for putting the business buzz together. Until Tuesday, May 2nd, when we bring you another buzz. Please stay safe. Have a great day. For me, Anita Khan, goodbye.
I came in like a wrecking ball.
I'm not afraid. Welcome to The Wrecking Trade, this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. The radio show that provides a platform for a deeper understanding of issues affecting men in the Cayman Islands. Join us as we explore the low enrollment of men and boys in college classrooms, the absence of men in the church, and the absence of fathers in the home. Join the conversation as we help men find their place in the modern world. Through engaging interviews with experts and members of the community, we provide a clear picture of what healthy masculinity looks like as an example for boys and girls. Our mission is to provide a voice for men, to help them navigate the challenges that they face and provide hope for a brighter future. So tune in this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. and join the conversation on The Wrecking Trade. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of men and boys in the Cayman Islands. Brought to you by Oscore Fitness, strong inside, powerful outside, and the Bellagio Salon and Spa, where beauty is reimagined.